Nobody satisfies their boss by just hitting deadlines. The managers who get promoted are the ones solving problems nobody assigned them. Monday morning. You walk into the office, open your laptop, and your calendar is already packed: stand-ups, one-on-ones, planning sessions, status updates, a few fires to put out. By Friday, you're completely exhausted. But when your VP asks what impact your team made this quarter, your mind goes blank. You were busy every single day, and yet you can't point to one concrete thing that moved the business forward. That gap between being busy and being impactful is where most managers get stuck. Today, I'm going to walk you through 4 principles that close that gap for good. Most managers describe their work in terms of tasks completed. Features shipped, tickets closed, sprints finished, that's the default language. But executives don't think in tasks. They think in revenue, growth, and risk. If you want to create real business impact, you have to translate your team's output into the language leadership actually speaks. Instead of saying we redesigned the onboarding flow, try this: we reduced new user drop-off by 18%, which adds roughly 2,000 active users per month. That single reframe completely changes how people perceive your contribution. Start tracking the business metrics your work actually influences: revenue, retention, cost savings, customer satisfaction scores. Even when your team isn't directly responsible for a number, find the thread that connects. Your QA improvements reduced production bugs? That's fewer support tickets, which means lower cost to serve per customer. Your process change saved 3 hours a week per engineer? Multiply that across the team and put a dollar figure on it. A McKinsey report on organizational health found that leaders who framed their work around business outcomes advanced significantly faster than peers who simply reported on activity. Stop telling leadership what you did. Start telling them what it meant. Here's a pattern I've noticed at companies like Amazon, Shopify, and dozens of mid-sized startups. The managers who rise fastest aren't just executing whatever gets handed down from leadership. They spot friction that nobody else has even named yet. Picture this: your support team keeps getting the same complaint about a confusing billing page. No product manager has flagged it. There's no tickets sitting in the backlog. But you notice the pattern: you pull the data yourself, and you walk into your skip-level meeting with a clear problem statement and a rough proposal. That right there is impact. It shows ownership that stretches well beyond your job description. And it signals something leadership is constantly scanning for: initiative without permission. You don't need a mandate to identify problems worth solving. You need curiosity, a habit of listening to the people closest to the customer, and willingness to act before it becomes someone else's overdue priority. At Amazon, this is literally baked into their leadership principles. They call it bias for action. The managers who sit back and wait to be told what matters will always lag one step behind those who figure it out themselves. Start looking at the edges of your team's work, where your responsibilities blur into another team's territory. That's where the biggest unsolved problems tend to hide. One of the most underrated skills a manager can build is strategic visibility, not self-promotion, but deliberate communication about what your team is doing and why it matters. Write a short weekly update for your key stakeholders. Highlight one win, one risk, and one thing you need help with. Keep the whole thing to 5 lines because nobody reads long emails. When one of your direct reports does something exceptional, tell their skip level about it directly. CC the person on that message so they can see you advocating for them in real time. This accomplishes 2 things simultaneously: it builds deep trust with your team, and it builds credibility with senior leadership. A VP I worked with at a fintech company once told me something that stuck. The managers she promoted weren't always the ones with the best raw output or the flashiest projects. They were the ones who made their results impossible to overlook. Think about that for a moment. If leadership doesn't know about your team's impact, it simply doesn't exist in their decision-making process. Visibility is not vanity. It is a core leadership skill that too many good managers neglect because it feels uncomfortable or boastful. Get over that discomfort, because your team's careers depend on it just as much as yours does. Impact almost never happens inside a single team working alone. The biggest business wins come when you connect dots across departments that nobody else is connecting. Maybe engineering built a capability that the marketing team has no idea exists yet. Maybe sales keeps hearing a customer pain point that product hasn't prioritized because the feedback signal never actually reached them. When you become the person who facilitates those cross-functional conversations, you make yourself genuinely indispensable to the organization. Schedule a monthly coffee chat with a peer manager in a completely different function. Ask them what's frustrating their team right now. Share what your team is building and actively look for overlaps or dependencies. These relationships compound quietly over months and years. Some of the highest impact projects I've ever witnessed didn't originate from a strategy document or a quarterly planning offsite. They started from a casual hallway conversation between two managers who suddenly realized they were trying to solve the exact same problem from completely different angles. Be the person who creates those moments on purpose, not by accident. Here's your one action before you close this video. Open a blank document right now and write down the top 3 things your team accomplished this month. Next to each one, note the business metric it connects to even loosely. Revenue, retention, efficiency, customer satisfaction. If you can't find a connection for one of them, that's not a failure, that's your signal. That's exactly where you need to start reshaping your priorities going forward. Impact isn't about working longer hours or cramming more projects onto your plate. It's about making sure the work you're already doing connects to something the business genuinely cares about. Start there, build the habit, and everything else follows. I'll see you in the next one. That's a wrap, thanks for watching. If this gave you one idea you can use today, hit like and subscribe. See you in the next one.